Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Qwest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us. How are you? How you doing? What have you been up to since we last talked? Have you been doing anything fun? Have you been fishing? Have you been shooting your bow? Have you been putting in food plots? What have you been doing? Let me know. Send me an email. I always love to hear from you. Send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Let me know what you've been up to. Send me your pictures. I got a very cool picture the other day from a guy named Mike Sills. Online, he is the Michigan Outdoorsman. And for some reason, he was driving a country road. He drove over a ditch out in the country. He threw a spinner, and he caught a 25-inch walleye out of this little, pretty good-sized ditch, but it was about a foot deep. I love hearing stories like that. I love seeing your pictures, your trail cam pictures, your bear pictures, your deer pictures. Send them to me. You can post them on the Facebook page. You know what? Facebook has changed. It used to be you could just put them on my page. I could click one button and share them. These days, the best thing to do is send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Well, summertime is definitely slipping away. Can you feel it? I can. I suspect you can as well. Cooler nights. The days are getting shorter. And a lot of people are excited about that. And, by this time of the summer, I'm getting ready for a change as well. I don't want to wish the rest of the summertime away, and that's one of the wonderful things about living here in Michigan, the changing seasons. It's nice to go through the different seasons. People love to visit Florida, and I do too in the wintertime, but I wouldn't want to live there. I don't want to deal with heat and humidity all the time. It's nice to get a break. It's nice to see the changing seasons. And it's coming up. And the change in the weather, or at least the perceived change in the weather, and maybe it's just optimism on a lot of people's parts, has people getting excited now about deer season. I hear that from my friends. I see it online. Oh, it's only so many days till the deer season opener. I think part of that is this time of year you see bucks in velvet. They're very visible. They're still running in bachelor groups. You can go out in the evening with binoculars and you can see a bunch of them. And a buck in velvet looks big. He looks impressive. Even an average buck looks big in velvet. But I think that gets people excited. Also, I think trail cameras get people excited. Trail cameras have changed the way we hunt. You can put out a trail camera, a cell camera, and it's basically scouting for you 24 hours a day, every day of the week. It will send you pictures of whatever walks in front of it. If it's a bear, if it's a deer, if it's a doe, if it's a nice buck, if it's a trespasser. You know what's going on in your hunting spot without you being there. Is it an unfair advantage? Well, I don't think so. If you could then, on your phone from your cell camera, pull a trigger and send an arrow or a bullet at the deer, yes, that would be an unfair advantage. Now, some states have banned the use of trail cameras in some areas and in some ways. Michigan is not one of those. And I don't think that's going to happen. At least I hear no talk of it. Now, you cannot use a drone to scout or even recover animals, so that's not on the table. The youth hunt is not that far away now. I will be taking my grandson Carter out for his last youth hunt at my buddy Scott's place. Scott, I appreciate your generosity very much. This will be his last time in the youth hunt. I'm a big fan of the youth hunt. Really, I think it's a great, great deal. People are putting in food plots, too. My son James was going to go out and spray last night for a couple of our food plots. He held off because it was going to rain. I'm lucky I have James. He does a lot of the hard work, and I just enjoy the fruits of his labor. What else? Oh, my hunts this fall. Okay, so I've got the youth hunt with Carter. And, I'm just sitting over his shoulder. That's all I'm doing, right? People say, oh, the adult is shooting the deer during the youth hunt. And I'm sure it happens. But you know what? Anybody who would do that, anybody who would use the youth hunt as an opportunity to kill a deer, especially if there was a kid in the blind with them, is just a dirtbag. They're a violator, and they're just a vile person. I'm sure it happens. I hope it doesn't happen as much as people tell me it does. But that certainly isn't going to be the case with our hunt. I will also be going down to Ohio to hunt with Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters, a buddy of mine. I'm real excited about that hunt because you got a chance at seeing a nice buck or maybe taking a nice buck. But my son James is going to be there, and my another one of my grandsons, Trent's going to be with us. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I have been out fishing. The skinny water is still holding up. I'm surprised. I may keep popping out there once a week or so just to see if they're in there. The water temps are still pretty good. That's holding big fish. I'm surprised to see good-sized fish in that shallow this time of year. A lot of people are heading out deep. If I can keep picking away at them in shallow, I will. People are asking me about perch reports. I don't know. And I'm not your guy to go to for a perch report. For some reason, I struggle with perch fishing. And I know it's supposed to be one of the easiest types of fishing there is out there, right? You get a perch rig with a couple of minnows on it. You go out and you drop it to the bottom and you wait for the perch to bite. For some reason, I struggle with perch fishing. It is one of the things I want to play around with this fall a little bit, as well as, and I threaten to do this every year. I threaten to say, you know what? I'm just going to stay out there and I'm going to fish more in the fall. But I never seem to do it. Maybe this year. What else is going on? Oh, I was at the Angler Qwest plant in St. Louis, Michigan, for the Angler Qwest dealers meeting this past week. Some interesting developments at Angler Qwest. Coming up after the break, Andrew St. Peter, who is a marketing director for Angler Qwest, will join me to talk more about that. But again, there's a change in philosophy, maybe a little bit of a change in direction at Angler Qwest. I will let him give you those details. This last week, I had Amy Trotter, executive director of MUCC, on my Wednesday night live. I always enjoy talking with Amy. She's just a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information, just a bubbly personality and a great person to talk with. This Wednesday coming up, we will do another Wednesday night live. This one from the Michigan Brand Meats plant in Bay City, michiganbrand.net, michiganbrand.net. We did one of these several years ago, and it was very popular. It's kind of nice to, do a Wizard of Oz thing where you step behind the curtain and see how things really work. It's fun to go a place like this and see how they make those great products. And we may even get a chance to see how they make those Mike Avery hunter sticks as well. So that'll be Wednesday night coming up at 7 o'clock. My Wednesday night lives are always at 7. You can see those on my Facebook page, on my YouTube channel, on LinkedIn, and also on Twitter. Still not Instagram. I got verified on Instagram and thought I was going to be able to do it that way, but still no luck. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And as I said earlier, the email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. I want to know your questions, your comments, your concerns, your criticisms. Send me your pictures, send me your video, and I will be happy to share them on my social media outlets. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine show, as I said, after the break, Andrew St. Peter of Apex Marine. Apex, the parent company of Angler Qwest Pontoons, Qwest Pontoons, and Polar Craft Boats, will join me to talk about what's going on out there. Then Nick Buggia of the Michigan Wildlife Council. The Michigan Wildlife Council is under attack from anti-hunters. What? I know, that's what I said. What? So we'll talk about that. In hour number 2, Paul Schlafly of Riverside Charters. I think Paul's going to be able to join us. He's on the water today. He's fishing for kings off Manistee. I want to talk about that. Then Joe Presgrove of the DNR on their app. How is that going? Are people using it? Are people downloading it? What can you do with the app? This week's Ask Avery segment talks about the Master Angler program. And in hour number 3, fishing royalty, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, KVD, Kevin VanDam, who last weekend wrapped up a 33-year professional bass tournament fishing career in Bay City on Saginaw Bay. He's won more tournaments. He's won more money than anybody ever in the world of professional bass fishing. And he's going to join me in hour number 3. I'm really looking forward to that conversation. You know, I look forward to all the conversations here. I learn every show. I learn something new every show, and that's my goal, right? If you can listen to this show and find out something new or be entertained, I'm good with that. Mike Avery is the name. The show is called Outdoor Magazine. Again, the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Andrew St. Peter of Angler Qwest Boats, and then we'll wrap up this first hour of this week's show with Nick Buggia of the Michigan Wildlife Council. That's coming up in hour number 1 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM and north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ, also 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your mid-Michigan tracker and Angler Qwest and Polar Craft headquarters. Linwood Beach, beautiful facilities, a great spot, great people, great service, a wonderful launch. What more can I say? I don't want to start talking about this already, but when it comes time to get your boat ready for the cold season, whether it's storage or just, I can't even say that process that you go through to get your boat ready for cold weather or shrink wrap. Again, I'm looking down the road here. The folks from Linwood Beach can help you out there as well. LinwoodBeachMarina.com, LinwoodBeachMarina.com. I told you in the earlier segment that I was really fortunate to be able to go to the Angler Qwest, the Apex Marine dealer meeting in St. Louis earlier in the week. Now, Apex Marine is the parent company of Angler Qwest Boats, Qwest Pontoons, and Polar Craft Boats. I had a chance to talk with Andrew St. Peter, who is their marketing director, and I thought, you know what, Andrew would be a great guest here on the radio show as well, and he graciously agreed to join me. Andrew, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Mike. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Listen, it was real nice to talk to you, and real nice to go through what's going on at Apex these days. But first, I've got to ask, how did you get to where you are? Have you been around the boating industry forever?
I wouldn't say forever. I'd say probably a majority of my career so far has been in marine. So I ended up right out of college at one of the other pontoon manufacturers in Michigan. And I was there doing design work, and then eventually moved into marketing. And left that a couple years ago, started doing some freelance things, trying new opportunities. And then I had a wonderful opportunity earlier this year to jump on board with the Apex team. And, it's a great team. It's a great, independently owned company, and it's really hard to say no to that. So I jumped on board early, I want to say it was March or April timeframe, and it's been going pretty well since.
Well, it's got to be, you and I are in the same business in some ways, in that overall, what we're doing is selling and promoting fun, and there are a lot worse ways to make a living.
Yes, for sure. Definitely. Marine is definitely the way to go.
You mentioned that Apex is an independent, family-owned company. That gives you guys a leg up in a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah, for sure. We are. I think we're able to be a little bit more nimble and reactive to the market as necessary. And I think we have a little bit more unique perspective and opportunities to do things that maybe the bigger corporate companies aren't able to do.
There are some changes at Angler Qwest now. Maybe a change in philosophy, a change in direction. Or is that an overstatement? What's going on, Andrew?
Yeah, so there's several different things that led to this, but the overall strategy is that we needed to make some improvements, in the company as a whole. And so we actually basically melded the Angler Qwest line into our Qwest line. So the Angler Qwest models are now a submodel of the Qwest lineup. And so our focus and our philosophy, like you mentioned, is really to focus on the family fishing experience. So not leaning a little bit away from the hardcore, but still making purpose-built boats for families on the water.
There was some concern when I first heard about this. I thought, oh no, Angler Qwest is abandoning fishermen. That's not the case, though, is it?
No, not at all. So we took some of the best features of our Angler Qwest models from last year and used those in a couple different floor plans. We still have some purpose-built fishing boats that also are really good for recreation on the pontoon boat side, as well as a couple of more entry fishing models.
No more Pro Troll, though. The boat that everybody recognizes with, I call it a rocket launcher, radar arch, or whatever, that, the big arch that goes over the boat. No more of those, Andrew.
Yep, that is correct. So we have discontinued that radar arch for this model year. But again, we did take several of the features and options that were really positive and really well received in the brand and adopted those into the other 2 or 3 models that we maintain.
So how many models of Angler Qwest are there now?
Yeah, so I think yesterday I told you it was 4, but it's technically 3. So we have the Angler Qwest Pro Sport, the Angler Qwest Pro Family Fish, and the XRE. And the XRE has submodels of XRE Cruise and XRE Fish. And the difference between those two is really one's has front loungers and the other one has the 4-corner style fishing.
Pro Sport, which one is that? What does that look like?
So Pro Sport is a center console. So in the front, it's got front loungers. The center, you have the center console. Dual captain chairs, very comfortable dual captain chairs. And then in the back, there is a rear convertible lounger. So it goes from a bench to a full lounger. And then you also still have those 2 casting chairs in the back as well.
And XRE? I'm not familiar with that one yet. What is that?
Yeah, so XRE is kind of our entry model. So more what you'd expect from some of the other brands to kind of still stay competitive with the entry fishing market. But it's just rear casting chairs in the back, an L-shaped lounger in the middle. And then if you get the cruise, it's going to be the front loungers. If you get the fish version, it's going to have the front casting chairs as well.
Well, I tell you the one that really got my attention, and it's the one that you and I walked through. In fact, I posted this video online, is the Pro Family Fish. I showed that video to my wife, Denise, and she said, I actually like that better than the Pro Troll that you've been running. That's a very fishable boat.
Yes, for sure. And I think to your point, like it adopts some of those Troll series, amenities. It still keeps that family fish feel, that the people have come to love, with a little bit, a couple different improvements and upgrades.
Well, small things like the washdown hose that is now removable, a push-button switch instead of a rocker switch. I can't tell you how many times fishing this summer we leaned against that old rocker switch and turned the thing on. So I don't know how you continue to come up with improvements and tweaks, but you guys always seem to do it every year.
Yeah, that one was a great example of good customer feedback and dealer feedback. We were getting the same conversations. It's like, we accidentally lean against it, or, it's difficult to get out of the little container. It was a good design and a good start, but I think we've definitely improved on that with the expandable hose and like the full trigger hose gun, and then that push button makes it way easier to handle.
How much of a role does customer feedback and dealer feedback play?
I think it's very critical. If at the end of the day, our job is to sell fun and sell boats, and so if we're sending something out there that customers really don't like, we definitely have to adapt. And so we get a lot of positive and negative feedback from our dealers and customers, and we take a look at that and do our best to adjust as needed.
One of the things I like about an independent company like Apex, Angler Qwest Pontoons is you're not tied into a specific or particular brand of motor. You can put anything on those things.
Yep, absolutely. There's no restrictions there. Really, it comes down to typically what your dealer supplies or what you're willing to source. And it can be rigged with any of them.
Well, and pontoons are so hot these days. Honestly, I see more pontoons on the water than I ever have. I see them with big outboards. I see some of them with dual outboards. I mean, they're the hottest thing out there today.
Yeah, they're incredibly popular. I like to consider it kind of like the SUV of the water. And you can see in automotive that SUVs are extremely popular. I think the versatility of the pontoon boat, the stability, it's an easy boat to jump into.
You may get mad at me for asking this, but will we ever see dual outboards on a Qwest or an Angler Qwest?
I don't think it's necessarily out of the question. Our current market, I don't know that there's like a huge push for it with our product, but you never know. Like I said, we respond to customer feedback and market trends, and so you never really know.
Well, and, I look at the old pontoons, dual tubes and a 50-horse outboard. These pontoons today are in a different league, a different world.
Yeah, they're the 50 ones are still pretty common, but it is also pretty common to see 150 horsepower plus on some of these boats. So it's definitely stepped up in the industry.
Can you get an Angler Qwest with 2 or 3 tubes?
Yeah, so we have brand new hull packages for this year, going with the whole strategy to merge under the Qwest lineup. We have a Q2 hull, which is our standard twin tube. It's got a newer transom for this year to accommodate some of the steering changes. We also have a Q3B, which is like our value hull. I would say our triple tube value hull. And then the Q3X, which is our performance hull. So if you're going for those high horsepower engines of 250 and up, you're definitely going to want the Q3X. If you're just looking for something that is stable, the 3.2, but you're lower horsepower, you can definitely get the Q3V. And if you're putting around the lake or you have lake restrictions, the Q2 hull is still a very well built hull.
We're talking with Andrew St. Peter, the marketing director for Angler Qwest Pontoons. Andrew, do we still send people to the website anglerquestpontoons.com for now, anglerquestpontoons.com?
Yep, that is totally acceptable for now. As we work through our changes for our model year 24, we will have a landing page on the Qwest website, actually, that we will redirect to, but eventually we'll have, it'll probably be questpontoons.com/anglerquest.
All right, Andrew. Sounds good. Hang tight.
Like
Andrew, hang tight. We got to take a break. I want to continue our conversation, though. We're talking with Andrew St. Peter, the marketing director for Angler Qwest Pontoons, the website anglerquestpontoons.com, and Qwest is QWEST, anglerquestpontoons.com. I have a few more questions, and I think Andrew has a few more minutes for me, so we will investigate that. We'll talk about that and more after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots. You know I love those two combinations, Michigan-based, family-owned. This is the perfect time to be putting in your food plots. It's the month of August. We've had a little rain. Rich Krazan can help you with that. His website is killerfoodplots.com, killerfoodplots.com. I would encourage you to check it out. Or listen to last week's show. Rich joined me, I think it was hour number 3, maybe hour number 2. Listen to the podcast version of the show where we talk in depth about food plots, killerfoodplots.com. We're talking now with Andrew St. Peter. Andrew is the marketing director at Apex Marine. Apex owns Angler Qwest, Qwest Pontoons, and Polar Craft Boats. Andrew, before the break, you were talking about a couple things. Changes in steering. What's going on there?
Yeah, so for the entire Qwest lineup, including the Angler Qwest models, we have adopted some power assist steering by Dometic. So that's we have XPA, so that's the hydraulic assist. And then we also, on our higher end models or higher horsepower models, we have the E actuator, which is full electric drive-by-wire style steering. So you're getting a better control, better feel than you probably have experienced on any other boats in the past.
What about the tubes, the pontoons? How do these things compare to, say, I don't know, that first generation? I've been working with Angler Qwest since the boat first came out. How are the tubes today? How do they compare to those earlier tubes?
Yeah, they have continued to improve on those designs and performance. And so this year they are even better than they were last year. So at our show, we had some boats on the water so dealers could compare the driving experience between the two, and I would say they're the best they've been.
Sealed chambers in every tube, right?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
So if God forbid you did get a leak or something, you're not going to flood the whole tube. It's just going to be one small part of it.
Yep, exactly. So it's keeping that that durability.
When are these going to be available?
So these, at our dealer meeting, we had a couple models that were, able to be delivered to dealers this week, and production does start this month. So basically, everything we produce from here forward is 2024. So you could start seeing them on dealers' lots, as soon as the next couple months, depending on your area.
And how is availability? There was a time when I talked to the folks at Angler Qwest, they'd say, we're having a hard time getting product. We're having a hard time making boats. If you want a boat next summer, order it now. What's that process like? Are we getting out of that?
I think we're getting out of it somewhat. I think we're, we're stepping into kind of a new phase right now with the market and everything. So I think you'll start seeing across the board in the industry as a whole a little bit more consistency.
I think of Angler Qwest, well, because of my frame of reference, and I know Angler Qwest kind of started here in the Great Lakes. What's the response? And I guess I know the answer to this from doing the Angler Qwest podcast, but the boat now has traction across the country, right?
Yep. So we're not just Michigan. We're, we have dealers, all over North America, essentially, that are selling these boats.
Are the new models or are they on the website now, like that Pro Family Fish? Can I go to anglerquestpontoons.com and find that online?
Not quite yet, but we should have our website and our boat configurator updated around mid-September timeframe. So if you're interested, you can start looking around there, or you can contact your dealer directly and they can run through some of that information too.
Or they can go to my Facebook page or Instagram feed and see you walking through the 2024 Pro Family Fish.
Yep, that's correct.
Andrew, I look forward to talking again. In fact, you and I will be doing this month's Angler Qwest podcast. I will have folks keep an ear out for that. And we'll be talking. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew St. Peter, the marketing director for Angler Qwest Pontoons, anglerquestpontoons.com. That's anglerquestpontoons.com. You know I am a huge fan of Angler Qwest. I've been working with the company since they came out with that very first prototype model. I thought, it's a pontoon. It can't be a fishing boat. But man, have I found out that is certainly the case. I am excited to see this new direction. That's one of the complaints. It's hard to say it's a complaint. My wife, Denise, when she gets on the Pro Troll that I'm currently running, she looks at that thing and says, this is really nice, but it's what about something for me? I say, honey, there's couches up in front. There's lounges up in front. It's there for you. So I think she's going to really like this Pro family fish and the other models as well. AnglerQuestPontoons.com. That's AnglerQuestPontoons.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Nick Buggia of the Michigan Wildlife Council and their Here for Generations campaign. This is a campaign that was started years ago to promote hunting and fishing in our state. The council and that campaign have now come under attack by anti-hunters. Why can't they just leave well enough alone, right? So we'll talk with Nick about that. In hour number 2, I had hoped to talk with Paul Schlafly of Riverside Charters in Manistee. He is out way deep. We may not be able to get him, so I'm doing a little juggling act here. But I know we'll have Joe Presgrove from the DNR, and we will also have this week's Ask Avery segment talking about the Master Angler Program. That's all coming up in hour number 2 after we talk with Nick Buggia, coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. And in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. You just heard the spot for the Michigan Wildlife Council and their Here for Generations campaign. Nick Buggia is with the council. He has been for a long time, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Nick, welcome back. How you doing?
Good. Thanks, Mike, for having me. I appreciate it.
Listen, always a pleasure. That spot we just aired is geared primarily towards southeast Michigan. I saw something yesterday in mid-Michigan. I saw a billboard on the side of the road, and I think it said something like "Beauty lies in the balance," and it was a picture of a big, beautiful Michigan bull elk. It said "Beauty lies in the balance, here for mioutdoors.org," and that's all it said. But it was in the North Country. I'm glad to see that, Nick.
Well, we do try to have a presence statewide, even though it is targeted towards southeast Michigan at the moment. We are trying to hit everybody.
Well, and you must be doing a good job because you've drawn the attention of the antis.
Well, we try not to. But,
I know you're trying not to, but you ended up in their crosshairs, no pun intended.
Yeah. It, I'm assuming you're referring to some comments that were made at the last Natural Resource Commission meeting, and it's something that I think we were sort of criticized for our ads and the way that they were presented, and when we come up with our ads, this is something that we test pretty thoroughly across all demographics across the state, so things aren't offensive, so they are appealing. So I'm fairly confident that they're hitting our target audience, but just like they might not be super appealing to those of us that hunt and fish, they're also not super appealing to those that are never going to hunt and fish.
Right, right.
And
you're trying to hit that audience that is receptive and open to the message. You're not trying to get us, the hardcore, and you're not trying to get the hardcore anti. So I think you're doing a good job there. What I'm actually talking about, Nick, is the comments, and I don't remember who she is. She's a female attorney from an anti-hunting group, and she's criticizing the makeup of the Wildlife Council, saying there should be, basically the way I read it, somebody who is more anti-hunting. She wants somebody from the tribes, and she wants a wildlife biologist on the council, too.
Yeah, and so, when we look at that, it's, she had a number of things on there, most of which we already have, except for, obviously, one of the requirements is that you, have bought a hunting and fishing license. But, we have a wildlife biologist. We have a diverse makeup of men and women. We have, different ethnicities. We have people that work for conservation organizations. When you look at the bill, when it calls for a tribal member, that's part of a package. It's part of a larger bill that would give tribal members a larger voice across kind of state government, which, I'm not here necessarily to comment on, but, what our concern is, I think hunters and anglers in Michigan worked very hard a number of years ago to kind of take politics out of hunting and fishing when we gave the Natural Resource Commission the power that they have. This is something that's funded by hunters and anglers. This isn't something where, state tax dollars is coming out to provide this message. It's 100% funded by those who buy hunting and fishing licenses. And so, while we're open, we're certainly open to those that maybe, we want to know how we're viewed by those who haven't bought hunting and fishing licenses, because a lot of those people are our target audience. So, we're open to hearing criticisms and advice and things like that. But, our main goal, we want to keep politics out of it. We want to stick with the science, and we want to educate the public that, one, this is how conservation's funded, not only in Michigan, but, across the country. It's arguably the most successful model in the world, and it's how we manage wildlife for us to enjoy for generations. Without this form of management, there'd be a risk that, the wildlife we enjoy today wouldn't be here for our kids and grandkids to enjoy.
Nick, I got to jump in just because I'm out of time, but today's world, I feel like we as hunters and anglers need all the positive PR and support we can get. And I think the Michigan Wildlife Council and the Here for Generations campaign is doing a great job. And I appreciate your support, Nick.
Yep, we appreciate you. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Nick. Nick Buggia of the Michigan Wildlife Council, the website hereformioutdoors.org. Hereformioutdoors.org. If we could only keep politics out of the outdoors, wouldn't that be wonderful? We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, I have no idea who we're going to talk to, but I'll work on that over the next couple of minutes.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Qwest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And as I say every week, I do think the best way to listen to this show, if you can, is on your local radio station. But if you can't, if your local radio station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if your local radio station, well, doesn't carry the show, and that should be a crime. There's something wrong with that. Isn't it nice to know that there is a podcast version of the show available? The podcast contains the same subject, the same audio, the same conversations, the same guests as the radio show, but the radio stations get the show before the podcast is uploaded. I want to protect my affiliate stations because to me they are worth their weight in gold. You can hear the podcast version of the show on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, on my Facebook page, and just about everywhere else you can hear a podcast, including Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Odyssey, even on YouTube. I do like podcasting, though. I'm a big fan of it. In fact, each month I do podcasts for some of my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle, Polar Craft Boats, Primal Outdoors, and Angler Qwest. And when we're done here in the studio recording this week's radio show, I will talk with Andrew St. Peter, who we had in the first segment of this week's radio show, about the changes going on at Angler Qwest right now. I think it should be a very interesting conversation and would encourage you to check that out. Now, I had hoped to talk to Captain Paul Schlafly of Riverside Charters in Manistee here in hour number 2. I figured this time of year, Paul would probably be, close to shore, but he's not. He's way offshore, and his cell signal is bad, so we can't reach him. But I will put in a plug for Paul. His website is riversidecharters.com, riversidecharters.com. And if you want a Lake Michigan salmon fishing trip or a river fall trip for steelhead or kings, Paul is a great choice. At the last minute, I reached out to my friend Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods. Bill is the hunting department buyer for Jay's. He's also an avid outdoorsman and a great guy. And he's on his way up north, I think, on a family vacation. He said, Mike, I can help you out. Bill Hahn, I can't thank you enough, buddy. How are you?
Good, Mike. I hope you can hear me okay.
I can. I know you're on your Bluetooth because that's the way we have to do it these days, and I can hear you just fine, and thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt your vacation.
Oh, it worked out perfect. I'm glad I get to talk to you, and I'm just enjoying Michigan's beautiful highway here.
Well, and today, as we're recording the show, it is a beautiful day, but lately, Bill, I don't know, these cool mornings, the shorter days, kind of starting to feel a little like early fall, isn't it?
Boy, it sure feels like fall's in the air already. I know I'm starting to see the posts from my friends with the countdown to how many days to October 1st, and I'm seeing things change at the store. The traffic's picking up, trail camera sales. People are wanting to get out there and finish their food plots, so it's for us, it's an exciting time.
Yeah, and it's got to be starting to get busy. And you talk about food plots. I know you've got all your food plot planting needs there at the store. We'll talk about trail cameras here shortly. Listen, let's talk about your new partnership with Primal Outdoors, to a company I've been working with, Bob Ransom. How's that going, Bill?
Oh, it's great. And honestly, it's really great to work with Bob again. We did many years ago, and now an opportunity presented itself to carry some products again, and he really worked out a nice deal for us where the products he had just really fit, and he's done some really innovative things on the blind and on the ladder stand side especially, and I feel very confident to put our customers in those products.
Bill, you've been around the outdoor industry for a long time. I feel like you know all the movers and shakers and players at this point.
Well, it's a small industry, smaller than people think. So, after 26 years, yeah, he's developed some really good relationships with people.
I was talking with Andrew St. Peter, the marketing director for Angler Qwest, in the first hour. We talked about this whole concept of selling and promoting fun, which is exactly what you guys do at Jay's. It's what I do. It's a pretty darn good way to make a living.
Boy, it sure is. There's a lot of worse ways to have to make ends meet, but I feel very blessed and privileged to be able to work in an industry that I love. And I tell my wife all the time, I said, I don't mind going to work. I like going to work. It's fun for me.
And you get to see all the new toys and gear and products coming out, too. That's kind of cool.
Being a gear nerd, it's right up my alley, let me tell you.
Me, too. What are you seeing these days, Bill?
Oh, man, there's always some new cool stuff. Since COVID, I haven't seen a whole lot of real new innovative stuff because everything's a day or year and a half delayed as far as new things coming out with the product shortage that we had. People were sitting on a lot of products, so it's kind of a year where people are. It's almost just like a reset, I think, for a lot of people. Now, having said that, there still is some pretty cool new stuff on the trail camera side, and even Bob's come out with some new blinds. So there's some neat stuff. I really foresee with technology the way it is in the next year or two some new breakthroughs. So this year it's a lot of just slight improvements on what's currently out there.
You use the term reset. I've heard that in similar terms from a lot of people in the outdoor industry, from boating to hunting and fishing across the whole gamut. What about availability, though? I mean, for a long time we went through, I can't get that. Or if you find something close to what you want, buy it because it's not going to be there tomorrow. How are things today, Bill?
Well, the good thing is inventory is available, and I think most retailers, if they did their due diligence and did a good job, they have inventory. And with that, prices have actually come down in some things. For tree stands being a prime example, I was having to charge a lot more the last 2 years just due to the cost of getting a shipping container over here. So the dust has settled slightly there. So we're seeing maybe in one of the very rare places in our economy, some of these products the prices coming down because they were artificially inflated due to the freight costs.
I'm thinking about a product like a tree stand. For you to accept a company that has tree stands, which is a big product that takes up a lot of space in the store as compared to, say, to a trail camera. I mean, if you bring in somebody who's got tree stands, you obviously are committed to them and you believe in your product, or they wouldn't be at Jay's.
100%, because it's really hard to shift gears or switch horses midstream. If I have to buy into the whole plan and really be committed to that partnership, because, a lot of times, people come in and buy their tree stand in October, but they don't realize that process for me has begun a year earlier as far as looking at the programs and figuring out when to bring it in and warehousing it and getting it at the right time, because it takes a long time to get those things from purchase order to inventory.
So are you actually looking at 2024 right now then already?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, I've been working on 2024 orders this last week yesterday before I left for vacation. It's that time of year already where we're anticipating. And on the fishing side, my friend Brian Darlin, who's our fishing buyer at Jay's, he's writing all his spring 2024 fishing orders right now. So yeah, the cycles in our seasonal business. You have to work, at least 6 months to 9 months ahead.
We've talked about this before. I don't know how you do this. You're trying to anticipate market supplies. You're trying to anticipate customer demand. You're looking a year in advance. And you got to figure out what's going to be the perfect fit. I don't know how you do it, Bill.
Well, I have a big dartboard at my office and a big wheel I spin. But most of the time those don't work. So, the good thing is when you work with, we talked about working with the same good reps year after year. When you have a strong partnership, like say Bob, or they want to sell me stuff not just this year, but for the next 20 years. So it behooves them to make sure my inventory is up to date, accurate, and if there's something that's not working, they help us find a way to help move through that and get the right product in. So that's one variable, but a very important one is picking the right item. And it's not there is no science to it. There's a lot of gut instinct. There's a lot of history, and there's a lot of advertising also can throw a monkey wrench into that, as we've talked about before. But it's a fun process, but it is a process, and it's always ever evolving.
Well, hang tight, Bill. I know you're driving up to the UP. You're on your family vacation. You've taken a break in that to talk with me, and I can't thank you enough. But hang tight a few more minutes. We're talking with Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods. The website for Jay's is jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. Bill is the buyer for the hunting department. How cool is that? He is the guy who decides what ends up on the shelves in the hunting department at Jay's Clare and Gaylord stores. A lot of responsibility there. I mean, we talk about it being a cool job, but you think about it, there's a lot of responsibility right there. And I suspect some sleepless nights as well. But Bill's been doing it for a long time. He does a great job, and I appreciate his availability. Again, the website, jsportinggoods.com, jsportinggoods.com. You can shop online, or I would encourage you to go to the store in Clare or the store in Gaylord, and you will see what I mean. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, more with Bill Hahn of Jay's as he continues his trip north on his family vacation. He's working during his vacation. How much more dedication could you ask for? You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS, and you can hear us in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Rapid River Knives. You know I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket. Do I need to prove it? Okay, I will. Here's the sound of my Rapid River knife. I always carry it with me. I think it is a handmade, in this case, custom-made piece of art that is designed to be used. Rapid River owner Chris Durson doesn't like it when people don't use his knives. They say, it's too pretty, I'm going to put it up on a mantle. No, use it. Use it because it's guaranteed for life. They will also sharpen your knives for the lifetime of the knife. And that could be multiple generations. And I can tell you right now, I pride myself in keeping a good edge on a knife, but I let this one get away from me. I need to get back up to the Rapid River showroom and get this thing sharpened. Their showroom is on US 2, just east of Rapid River. Stop by there if you get a chance. You'll see what I mean. If you can't make it there, go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.us. That's rapidriverknifeworks.us. Or stop by Jay's Sporting Goods, because they have Rapid River knives in the store. And I think the guy you can thank for that is my guest right now, Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods. That's got your fingerprints all over it, Bill.
Yeah, we have a good selection of Rapid River right now. In fact, Chris set us up. In fact, I'm hoping to swing by and see that rascal when I go through there. I can't go up there without bringing him a Compton donut.
Well, when you do, tell him I said hi. Let's talk a little bit about trail cameras. There is excitement in the deer hunting world because the season's not that far away. I think there's also excitement because we're seeing bucks in velvet right now. They look impressive, and trail cameras are allowing us to keep an eye on what's going out there 24 hours a day.
You're 100% right. In fact, this last week I've had more buddies either text me pictures or post pictures or in person show me pictures on their phones of deer that are on their hit list now or target bucks that they're finding. And it's neat to see. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's going to be a good one. And, you know, they still have another month or so of growth yet. So it's an incredible tool and resource to be able to monitor our deer activity.
And they've come such a long way from the old days when we put a roll of film in there and they used a flash to light up the scene. You had to go get it processed. These days, man, you don't have to do anything but pull your phone out.
No, it's amazing. People phones are dinging nonstop, and they're excited not because it's a text from their significant other, but it's because their deer cam went off and they want to see what's in front of their camera. So it's definitely been a game changer. You know, and you mentioned earlier, Mike, about technology in this space. One thing I thought of, actually, you mentioned it on the break there about the primal cameras. I'm excited. We are offering that camera this season that you can put on and Wi-Fi in and actually change the direction of what it's viewing right from your phone. And I was thinking of all the different applications that are there with that for bear hunting. For one, boy, being able to put that on your bait and kind of zoom in and see what's there, or in a blind application, if you are wanting to monitor a runway towards your food plot or towards your blind. When we talked about technology, that's been kind of a breakthrough that's pretty neat. And I think we haven't really experimented with that technology yet, but I'm excited to kind of check that out.
I have used that Primal Blind Spot 360 bear hunting and turkey hunting, and it is a game changer because it does literally let you see what you can't as you're sitting in the blind, behind you. But to be able to control it remotely, that takes it to the next level.
Yeah, that is the next level. So I'm excited to get those in. But you were referring earlier to the typical trail cam.
Yeah.
And now the non-cellular trail cam is almost a thing of the past because these programs have gotten so easy to set up and to get a data package for. Now almost everybody that has a trail camera has a cellular camera plan versus just a standalone going out and swapping the card type situation.
Well, they used to be, those cell programs or packages used to be pretty expensive, but I don't think so anymore.
It was, and it was kind of complex. You had to go to your cellular provider and set up a separate plan. Now it's all done through QR code. You can buy the camera, go right online from your phone, select your data package, and set up the billing, and it's very seamless, very easy. And the best thing is, as everything, as technology increases, the price comes down. So you can get into it very nominally now, very low investment to get all the benefits of that technology.
So what do you like in these days, Bill? What models or what brands do you like?
Well, honestly, our number one seller the last 2 years, probably 3 years, has been Tacticam. Very easy to operate. They really pushed the pricing low a couple of years ago, and now everybody's kind of followed that with the technology. They're offering cameras, anywhere. You can get a cellular camera now for $99. Now, it's not going to have all the bells and whistles some of the other ones do, but you can still get into it at that price point. But on average, you're in the $120 to $130 range for a very good camera now. So Tacticam is probably my number one. Stealth Cam is another one we do very well with. Browning Trail Cam. Those are probably my top three brands right now.
Tacticam, the same company that makes the little camera that I put on my crossbow that I bought from you guys. I like those guys. I think they've got it going on. I've never used their trail cameras yet, but that little point of view camera sure is nice.
It really is, and they also have a thing called the FTS, which is a film-through scope mount, which I took on my Aoudad hunt a couple of years ago, and I may have shared this with you before. I apologize if I did, but I was able to capture on footage the shot through my scope I made on that Aoudad, and what a cool thing to be able to see that through the scope and have that recorded forever.
If I remember right, that was a long shot, or am I thinking of a different hunt?
No, that was my longest. That was 350 yards, and I knew what my ballistics were, but I was still a little nervous at that range because I've never shot anything that far. But he went right down, and the guide gave me a high five, so I knew that was good.
350 yards, Bill. That I think that is a long shot. Definitely a long shot.
Yeah, that was my longest to date for sure.
Do you have any hunts? I know because of the position you're in there, you get a chance to take advantage of some cool hunts. Anything cool coming up for you this fall, Bill?
I have nothing on the books this fall, but I'm always open. I'm always open and open. I did get a great opportunity, and I think you and I spoke right before I went. But in May, I went down to Texas, and I got to harvest an axis deer and a black buck. And I'll tell you what they say about axis deer meat is true. My parents are in town visiting and going with us on vacation, and I treated them to some axis burger last night, and there were smiles all around the table.
I've heard that. I shot an axis buck in Florida one time myself. I didn't get a chance to eat it, but I heard I was really missed out on that. Even better than moose, because moose is the best wild game I've ever had.
I'm a fan. Yeah, I've heard the same thing. I've never had moose, but I hear it's phenomenal. But everything I've heard about axis, it's all true. But that was my adventure so far for this year, was to be able to go down there with some friends and enjoy and get a couple animals. We had a hoot.
So, Bill, as the hunting department buyer, what are you responsible for? You don't buy bows and guns too, do you?
No, we have a separate buyer for just archery, and then we have a separate buyer, two buyers for firearms and firearm accessories. Portion of our store, as you know, but basically all the other stuff that has to do with hunting is they put on my plate.
Well,
so, for example, decoys, blinds, tree stands, cameras, cutlery, trapping, dog supplies, scents, lures, pretty much everything, all the ancillary things that it takes to help be successful in the woods.
All the cool, fun stuff runs through Bill Hahn. Listen, Bill, I'm going to let you go here. I certainly appreciate you interrupting the beginning of your vacation. You bailed me out at the last minute, and I owe you, buddy.
Always a pleasure, Mike. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Bill. Appreciate it. Have a good trip. Have a good vacation. Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods. Again, the website, jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. I suspect if you have heard this show at all over the years, you know about my relationship with Jay's and how I got started with them and why I am so committed to them. But if you are a new listener, let me tell you, and if you've heard the story before, I apologize. But Jay's was the first company I ever approached when I had the opportunity to go out on my own and leave the TV station that I was working for. I went to Kathy Poet, the late Kathy Poet, who was the marketing director. She was the daughter-in-law of Jay, who started Jay's. I said, Kath, I have this opportunity. I don't know if I can do it. What do you think? And she said, you can do it. I know you can do it, and we will help you. And they were my first financial and not just finances. They helped me financially to get started, but moreover than that, they gave me the confidence. That's what the word I'm looking for. She gave me the confidence to go out on my own and do it. So that's why I have been so loyal to Jay's ever since. I've had the opportunity, not with radio, but back when I had the TV show, a couple of the national sporting goods retailers said, hey, Avery, would you be interested in working with us? Well, the answer is no. I find myself sometimes maybe being loyal to a fault, and it has come back to bite me a few times, but I believe if you have a relationship in somebody with business, it turns into a personal friendship as well, and there's a sense of responsibility there on both sides to live up to that. And the folks at Jay's have done that for years. And so I plan on working with them as long as I'm working, and I've said this before, I got no plans to retire. God has plans when I'm going to retire. I don't know what those plans are, so I'm just going to ride the wave until then. jaysportinggoods.com, jaysportinggoods.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Joe Presgrove, he's with the DNR, but I think he's the guy in charge of either developing or distributing their app, the DNR app. If you don't have that, it's pretty cool. Let's talk to him about how many people have downloaded that, also what you can do with that app. And then this week's Ask Avery segment is a question about the Master Angler program. And in our third hour, speaking of Master Angler, the GOAT himself, KVD, Kevin VanDam, who just wrapped up a 33-year career as the most successful and famous tournament bass fisherman ever. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC AM and FM. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Michigan-based, family-owned VersaSkins. By the way, you can see them at the Woods and Water Show in Imlay City at the Woods and Water Outdoor Weekend, the first weekend after Labor Day. They will be at booth 317, booth 317. In the meantime, you can go to the website, versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. I want to talk now with Joe Presgrove. He's with the DNR. Joe, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Hey, listen, a real pleasure. I think you have an interesting role there in the department. Tell me what you're doing.
Sure, yeah. I'm the public outreach analyst for the license sales and customer service section. I deal a lot with the Michigan DNR Huntfish app, and I'd like to share some of the cool features that are available for folks to use once they download the mobile app.
I tell you, the more I get into that Huntfish app, the more impressed I am. It's pretty cool. Yeah, tell me about it. Well, first of all, how do we get it, Joe?
Sure, yeah. You can go to any of your app stores to download it. So either, the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, and just search Michigan DNR Huntfish app, and it should pop right up and for you to download.
Has it been accepted? I don't know if you're giving out numbers for download numbers, but are you happy with the people who have taken advantage of it?
Absolutely, and I do have some download numbers. So we're right around 280,000 downloads as of yesterday. So that number is growing every day. So it's great to see people are using it. The word is out there, and like I said, I'm glad to see people are using it.
What do people use it for? What can we do?
Yeah, a lot of individuals use it to purchase licenses and permits because it allows them to store and access non-kill tag items like base licenses, fishing licenses, and so on. But also make purchases for kill tag items like your deer, bear. We just say allow 7 to 10 days for those arrive in the mail. Harvest reporting, it's kind of a go-to source for harvest reporting, especially as we approach deer season. It's actually proven to be the quickest way to submit a harvest report with average time less than 3 minutes. So it kind of streamlined the process. It's real simple. Select the license harvest report tile, select the license you want to report on, and just fill in the required fields, and you're done. And then they'll give you a confirmation number right there on your screen.
Nice. What about, because I'm going to talk about this in the next segment, Master Angler. Can we submit a Master Angler through this, or is that a separate process?
Yeah, so there's some regulations and info tile that's on your mobile app. So if you click on that, there's resources that are available right there. I believe that is an option right on the app itself, so you can submit it right there. So you don't have to search through the web or the internet trying to find it. It should be readily available there on your app.
How long has this app been out?
It was actually released in July of 2022.
Oh, so it's new. I mean, really, it's pretty new.
It is, yep. And people are still finding out about it today, which is awesome. And, we're really listening to the hunters and anglers out there. They send in recommendations, and we try to do our best to make some changes to it as we progress. And it's been working out really well for the department and for the folks that are using it.
So you can tweak this. It's not cast in concrete for the next decade. This is something you can go in there and change something here and there if you need to.
Absolutely, yes. We are making changes occasionally. If we notice something that's not working out for some folks, then we'll do our best to work with our developers to make those changes. So, for example, we had word that the harvest report button on the actual license was difficult for some to locate, so we made that button yellow. So that button will stand out now for those people that are submitting their deer harvest report. It'll pop out right at them. So that's just an example of what we've done recently to try to make things a little bit easier for everybody.
Well, speaking of easy, I mean, I've had people out on the boat this summer who are not avid fishermen, and they forgot to get their license. I remind them. They go on their phone, they pull up the app, boom, they got a fishing license within, honestly, I'm going to say a couple of minutes.
Sure. Yeah, it's a pretty quick process, and they can keep that right on their phone and present that to a law enforcement officer or a conservation officer if they're approached.
Yeah, you don't need a license in your wallet anymore. You can show them your phone. How cool is that?
Correct, yeah.
What else should we know about it, Joe?
Yeah, so you can access guides and digests. It's probably one of my most favorite part of the app is the ability to download these digests and guides while you have connectivity, but you can access them regardless of connectivity as long as you have battery life on your phone. So that's a great tool to have. I use mine all the time when I'm out waterfowl hunting. If I'm checking on the hunting hours, I can just pull it right up on my phone. I know I can rely on my app to have that digest readily available there. So make sure I stay within the legal hunting hours, of course, and that's just an example of how I use it.
What a great resource it is. The website for the DNR is michigan.gov/DNR, but again, how do we get the app?
Yeah, so you can actually just go to your app store right on your phone. If you have an Apple phone, you go to the Apple Store, If it's an Android, you go to the Google Play Store. Whatever your preferred app store is, you can search Michigan DNR Hunt Fish app, and it should pull right up there for you to download.
No charge.
No charge.
All right, Joe, appreciate you reminding us of it. I think it's a great tool, and I appreciate your reminder. Joe Presgrove of the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. If you want the Hunt Fish app, as Joe says, go to Google Play or the Apple App Store. It's real quick, a real easy download, and a real easy app to use. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment, as I said earlier, talking about the Master Angler program. How has it changed? What's it about? And how do you submit an entry into the Master Angler program? That's coming up after the break in this week's Ask Avery segment. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us on the other side of the state, Port Huron WPHM 1380 AM, and north of the bridge in Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM 95.3 FM. Excuse me, the Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works, this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can ask me a question directly, or you can pose a question you would like me to pass along to somebody else, either somebody in the DNR or MUCC or something like that. The best way to get those questions to me is to send me an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. This week's Ask Avery question deals with the Master Angler program, and this is actually a question that came up in person on the Angler Qwest. We were fishing a couple of weeks ago, and we got a real nice white bass, and I said, I think that's a Master Angler fish, which got me thinking about this whole Master Angler program and how it has changed and evolved over the years. The Master Angler program is something put into place by the DNR years and years ago. It's a way to recognize anglers who catch big fish, and I guess recognize the big fish as well. It used to be that there were two categories for Master Angler. There was a catch and keep and a catch and release. The catch and keep category had stricter guidelines. It had to be a bigger fish. And if I remember right, the weight of the fish was also a factor. These days, there is only one category. There is no separate catch and keep or catch and release. And it goes by length only. So the way you submit an entry is you take a picture of the fish next to some kind of a ruler. On the Angler Qwest, we got a bump board right in the back. So we laid that big white bass down on that. We took a picture. It was 16 inches long. And I took a picture of the angler holding the fish. Then it was up to the angler to submit that. How do you do it? You go to the DNR website, michigan.gov/DNR. There is a Master Angler tab on there. Now, Joe Presgrove was telling me there's a way to do it through the app. During the break, I pulled up the Hunt Fish Michigan DNR app. It's not jumping out at me. I suspect there is a way to do it, but I would have to investigate this a little bit more. So it's length only these days. For example, to be a Master Angler largemouth bass, it has to be 21 inches. By the way, the current state record is 11.94 inches. For a white bass, it has to be 16 inches. Well, the fish we caught that day in Saginaw Bay was 16 inches. State record, 6.44. Bluegill, 10 inches. Burbot, 26 inches. A carp, 33 inches. A catfish, channel cat, 30 inches. A flathead, 35 inches. A crappie, 14 inches. For a black crappie or a white crappie. Oh, a sheephead, a freshwater drum, 27 inches. I know we've caught those. Sturgeon, 60 inches. Oh, my goodness. 60 inches. State record sturgeon is 193 pounds. A muskie, 46 inches. A northern, 36 inches. A perch, a white perch, 11 inches. A yellow perch, 14 inches. State record, 3.75 pounds. Atlantic salmon, 28 inches. A king salmon, 39 inches. The state record, 47.86 pounds. Caught 2 years ago off Ludington by Captain Bobby Sullivan and crew. A 10-inch smelt is a master angler. A sucker, 21 inches. A red horse, 22 inches. A brookie has to be 14 inches to be a master angler. State record, 9.5 pounds. A brown trout, 24 inches. State record, 41 pounds and change. Lake trout, 34 inches. State record, 61.5 pounds. Steelhead master angler, 32 inches, 26.5 pounds. A walleye, 29 inches. State record, 17.19 pounds. That was set in, I think, 1958 or 1959. I keep expecting that record to get broken. It used to be, back when there was a weight category for walleye, it was 9 pounds for catch and keep. But then Mark Martin and clients started pulling all kinds of 9-pound fish out of the Muskegon Channel, Muskegon Lake, and they bumped it up to 10 pounds. And then the Saginaw Bay walleye fishery and the Lake St. Clair walleye fishery and the Lake Erie walleye fishery started to boom. They had to push it up to 10 pounds. Then I think it went to 11 pounds. These days, again, length only, 29 inches for a walleye. So take a picture of the fish next to some kind of a measuring board, a tape measure, a bump board, a yardstick, or whatever, so the fish can be clearly identified, what species it is and how big it is. Take a picture of the angler with the fish, and you can submit the paperwork for a master angler fish. The only master angler I have on the books, I think, is a 17-inch white bass caught out of the Tittabawassee River in about 1987, 88, 89, 90. So if you catch a big fish and you want the recognition, you want the certificate, submit it. Thank you, as always, to our friends at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org, securitycu.org. We will take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, fingers crossed, the GOAT, KVD, Kevin VanDam, the man himself, right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Qwest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us. I talk about how blessed I have been to have a career in the outdoor industry. Back when I had the TV show, I got to go a lot of cool places and do a lot of cool things. And these days on the radio show, I get a chance to talk to so many interesting people. And that's been the best part of it, really. Talking to interesting people who are oftentimes, sometimes just average, everyday people who have a good story to tell. Other times, people who are at the absolute top, the pinnacle of their career, people that we all look up to, people that we all respect. This hour, a real treat for me. One of the most well-known names in the fishing world. The GOAT, they're calling him, the greatest of all time. You know him as KVD, Kevin VanDam. He's a Michigan guy who had a career fishing tournaments for 33 years. And in that 33 years, he was the best. He was the best of the best. He wrapped up his career last weekend on Saginaw Bay in a Major League Fishing tournament. Darn near won the thing. and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Kevin, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing great, Mike. Well, a little tired this morning. I went right from the tournament on Sunday night, drove down to Lake St. Clair. I had a shoot scheduled down there, a film shoot down there to do some smallmouth fishing. Spent the last couple of days out there on Lake St. Clair and got home late last night. So just getting caught up, been gone. I guess that's a pretty good road trip, but part of the gig, you know?
Well, I was thinking about this. You had the intensity and the physical demands of that tournament last weekend on Saginaw Bay, and then I heard you were down on Lake St. Clair. So just because your tournament fishing at that level is done doesn't mean you're putting the boat and the fishing rods away, does it?
No, not at all. I've I'm going to really focus on still being, a great ambassador for the sport. Obviously I love the outdoors, hunting, fishing, all of it. Bass fishing's how I've made my living. And, I'm going to continue to keep doing that. That's, really what I'm jumping into in this next phase, is being, a spokesperson for conservation and teaching people how to fish, getting people more, involved. So I'm going to be doing a lot of filming and traveling around a lot, but still, obviously, I'm going to do a lot here in Michigan. I still think it's the greatest place on the planet. St. Clair is arguably the best smallmouth fishery there is anywhere, and I would say Saginaw Bay's got to be the best walleye fishery anywhere. And so we're pretty blessed to have so many great places to be able to hunt and fish here in Michigan. So I'll definitely be doing a lot here as well. But yeah, and it was just like Sunday at Saginaw Bay was Mother Nature at her finest. I'm out there bouncing around in 5-footers with it raining sideways, and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty fitting for my last competition day of my career for her to give me some payback that day, and that's how it worked. And then the next day at Lake St. Clair is more of the same. So, what do you expect? But it's still, a lot of fun, and, hopefully in the future I can maybe pick my days a little bit better. You're not with the tournament schedule, you're set on those. And that's one of the reasons why I'm making this transition is, it's a rigorous schedule, basically 20 to 25 weeks a year that you're locked into the tour schedule, and there's really not any flexibility in that. And, going forward, if I'm planning my own production and filming and things like that, at least I can hopefully pick the weather windows a little better,
Man, I saw some of those pictures of you out there on the bay, and all I could see was the top of your head. There's waves in the foreground, there's waves in the background, there's the top of your head, and I'm thinking, I wouldn't want to be out there that day. But you didn't have a choice. There was so much riding on that. What can you walk me through the emotions of that last tournament?
Yeah, going into it, I really didn't have a lot of preconceived notions on how I would do or anything. As close as Saginaw Bay is to me, I live over in Kalamazoo on the west side of the state, and I've done a lot of fishing on the east side, but I typically always go to Lake St. Clair. I mean, it's an incredible fishery as well, and I hadn't fished Saginaw Bay in over 30 years. I think the last time before this year that I've been on the bay was in 1992. I was filming a spinnerbait video, and I was over there, and I just haven't made it back since, and I know how great the fishery is. It's been, especially through the high water cycle we've had in the last handful of years on the Great Lakes overall, but I just wasn't able to make the trip over there and get there. So I went a little earlier this summer and, tried to refamiliarize myself with it, and went through the 2-day practice that we had out there. And right before we got there, there was a huge blowout of the north, and it really dirtied the whole bay up in a challenge. And I think, that really changed it for a lot of the guys that spent some time up there pre-fishing, before. I mean, it's obviously, when we have a 30-day off limits, a lot of things are going to change. But, I went out there and practiced everything that I knew, and, found some largemouth, and I got a few smallmouth bites is all. And I didn't really know what was there, but boy, the first day of the tournament, I saw real quick, I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. If I can manage this, and if, the weather conditions work out, I might have a chance at this one. And Came close. I was leading going into the final day, but that last day when the wind blew out of the east, it just thrashed the whole bay as far as anything shallow at all being super, super dirty and muddy. And, those fish just move around. That's we call it the nature of the brown beast in the in the smallmouth world. They're just unpredictable in a lot of cases, and where they're going to be and how they're going to act. And there, the bay is very different because it is very condition oriented. The wind and the current, it can really turn things up there in a hurry, and it makes it. It's a special place, but I think that's why it's so good is because there's so many days that you can't even get out there and fish.
Yeah. Kevin, forgive my ignorance on this. I'm a Saginaw Bay guy. It's my home body of water, but I'm a walleye guy. Do you think, is Saginaw Bay more of a smallmouth or a largemouth fishery?
Oh, I'd say for sure largemouth. So a big part of the interesting thing about Saginaw Bay is the smallmouth population that lives there is very migratory. And so in the spring, early in the year, because it's a shallow bay and it warms up, I think a lot of fish come from the main body of Lake Huron, probably swim a long ways and come down in there and spawn because it's incredible. Then, in May and in early June, it's smallmouth fishing is great, when they're in there for the whole spawn process and mayfly hatch and all that. But after that, they migrate back out into the big water. A lot of them, the fish do. And there's some that are there. Obviously, smallmouth were a huge factor in this tournament just because they just grow so big in the Great Lakes now. I mean, it's hard to catch a 5-pound largemouth at Saginaw Bay. But I'll tell you this, for just sheer numbers of largemouth, especially, fish that are in the pound to 3-pound range, it's one of the best fisheries there is. It's real stable. I mean, they don't go. I mean, Saginaw Bay really shocked a lot of the tour pros because, they just think of normal northern fisheries where when you go there and you see all the phragmite and the cattails and the bulrushes and the reeds and things like that, it looks more like Lake Okeechobee than it does, a northern typical fishery. So, and it supports a lot of fish. And then again, a few years ago, when the water was high, it just all those back marshes and all that backwater areas. It's just a huge nursery for everything, everything to spawn. Bluegill and the walleye go back in there, even then. And the population really exploded. But, the last 2 winters we haven't had any ice on the Great Lakes, so we get a lot of evaporation. And, Saginaw Bay has dropped 36 inches since last year. It dropped 18 inches this year and dropped 18 inches last year. That just takes a lot of water out of those backwater areas. It makes it harder to get around in that. So, I wish we could have fished it for the very first time, when it was on that peak cycle, because it would have just impressed the whole world what it has. But that's the nature of Mother Nature's cycles, with the water and things like that. As you've been there your whole life, and I have around, not Saginaw Bay, but in Michigan and Lake Michigan and fishing the connecting waters. And that's part of the natural cycle. And just like anything else in nature, if you've got a 10-acre cow pasture, you can only have so many cows grazing in it. But when your pasture gets huge, your population can expand, and that's what it does with the water level. And for the largemouth, because that's where the habitat is at, where the walleye, and it is incredible. I caught so many walleye last week. Had a couple walleye dinners in practice. We caught them and cooked them up. It's amazing what's going on over there. But
Kevin, listen, I believe I'm embarrassed to have to interrupt Kevin VanDam, but I've got to take a break. All right, we'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll talk more with the GOAT, KVD, Kevin VanDam. His website, kevinvandam.com. That's kevinvandam.com. To get a chance to talk to this guy, it's a real treat, believe me. More coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us out in the Thumb in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning Archery has been a leader in the archery industry for 3/4 of a century. And they continue to innovate, come up with new products, new manufacturing processes today for target archers and bow hunters as well. As you are getting your rig ready for the fall season, I suspect you have some Boning products on it. If not, I would encourage you to check it out, take a look. Boning.com is the website, Bohning, Boning.com, a great Michigan-based company. You know I love that Michigan connection. That's one of the reasons why I am so happy to have our guest on this hour. He is a Michigan guy. He was born in Michigan, raised in Michigan, but his notoriety, his fame has extended across the world. In the bass fishing world. They call him the greatest of all time. Think about this. The greatest bass fisherman ever. What a title that is. And they're talking about Kevin VanDam, who last weekend wrapped up a 33-year pro walleye fishing career. He was on Saginaw Bay. He's not done yet, though. Trust me on that. And Kevin's with us right now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Kevin, how does a kid who grows up in West Michigan end up where you are today? And did you ever dream that this is where you would be? Was this a goal your entire life?
It really wasn't. I just, my dad got me fishing when I was a kid. He took me ice fishing when I was 3 years old, right? And I just had always had a passion for fishing and for the outdoors, and grew up doing it all. In Michigan, it's whatever's happening at the time of the year, whatever season is in, you go through it. But bass were always that was my thing from a young age. And I got into a bass club, and, my older brother, started before me, and it was just very interesting and unique, in that background to be able to say, hey, you can compete in bass tournaments, and you can actually, there's money involved in it and things like that. So I fished my first tournament when I was 14 and with my brother, and, just kind of worked my way up the ladder, joined a bass club when I was 16, and fished my first national event, I think, when I was 18 years old, just to see how good the guys that I looked up to, the Danny Browers and Larry Nixon, Rick Klon, those guys at the time. I wanted to just see how good they were. And, I did that for a couple years, fished one or two events. And then I guess it was, 1990, 91, it was my first full-time year on tour. And, I won the points that year and Rookie of the Year, qualified for the Bassmasters Classic. And the next season, when I was able to, I fished the whole complete tour and won Angler of the Year. And, 33 years later, I've been able to accomplish a lot, a lot of titles and tournaments and championships and things like that. So it's been a lot of fun. I love it. I love the competition for sure, but I also, I just love the people around the sport. That's what makes it real special. I think outdoors people in general are like that, and it's been a lot of fun. I like to teach people. I love doing instructional videos and television shows and doing seminars at sport shows and things like that to help people have a better time or a more enjoyable time and be more successful on the water. And I've done that through the tournament platform for this long, but like you say, my next phase is I'm going to be able to do it as more of an educator in a more controlled form, and start a show and really do what I want and have a more free time. I mean, I love to hunt too. I've got I've got some property here that we manage for deer and turkeys and ducks for that matter. So having a little more flexibility in the schedule should give me more time in the outdoors is what I'm hoping for.
Well, that's we all have that goal, man. More time in the outdoors. That's something we would all strive for sure. I keep asking myself though, there's something about you. I don't know if it's the way you're wired or if it's a work ethic or if you have this innate ability to try to figure out bass. I mean, what was it that allowed you to not only compete at the level you're at, but excel and continuously and consistently beat these other guys? What's the difference between you and them?
Well, that's a good question. I just, just like anything, there's no shortcut for hard work and putting the time and energy and effort into it to be successful in anything or any sport for that matter. So I've definitely done that. I think a lot of other people do as well, obviously, but in the end, you got to make good decisions on the water and make the right moves, just like last week at Saginaw. In a normal fishery, I'd have a backup plan, but out there, as big and vast as it is, I just didn't have anything to fall back on. So that's why I don't feel real bad up, because the conditions basically, when I started the tournament, I had a game plan. You only get 2 days of practice, so you got to figure it out, and you put together the best game plan you can, and then you got to roll the dice for the rest of the week, and you got to plan for the future, and it just didn't work out last week, but a lot of times it has, and I don't know the exact reason why I've been so lucky or blessed over the years, but I know it seems like the harder I work, the luckier I get. I've always gotten.
Yeah.
So, I have a passion for it. My wife says it all the time. I don't ever sit still. I'm always.
Oh, Kevin, we lost you for a second. We may have lost him. Can you try calling back, Jonathan? Okay. Yeah, if I got Kevin VanDam on the phone and his cell drops off, you can bet we're going to call him back. That's for sure. I've been trying to get Kevin on the show for a while here now, and the timing just seemed absolutely perfect. And believe me, he's not an easy guy to get in touch with, not because he's trying to be aloof or reclusive at all, just he's so darn busy that he's hard to get in touch with. So I reached out to some people, and I got the phone numbers to call. And, okay, Kevin, I think we got you back. Your cell dropped off there.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I live in the country, so, service is not always perfect.
Believe me, I appreciate any time I can get with you. I don't mean to be gushing here. I mean, I've done this for a long time. I've talked to an awful lot of guys, but, man, you're the man. I'm not even a bass fisherman, and I know how well respected and how high you are at the top of the heap and have been for a long time. So to get a chance to talk with you, it's a real honor.
Well, I've been, like you say, been very fortunate and blessed over the years. I've watched your show for years on television. I see a lot. Of course, obviously, Michigan has always been super close to my heart. I do a lot of the sports show, the Grand Rapids Sports Show and the one over in Novi every spring for a show span there, the Ultimate Sports Show. I've seen you around over the years at things like that. So it's pretty unique. I tell people all the time just how special it is here in our state. And, of course, a lot of the guys have experienced it on tour when we fish tournaments, and really St. Clair's been the only place we've ever really had many national events, but a lot of the guys have came up here and vacationed and things like that, and just see what a beautiful state we have, and just how great the fishing is, for a lot of different species. So I love to tell that story. I'm not tied with pure Michigan, but I do it all the time. I'm super proud of where I'm from.
I say all the time that if I was born and raised in a different state, I probably wouldn't be doing what I am, and I probably wouldn't have the opportunities I've had. Is that the same with you? I mean, if you would have been grown up in some state that was not so outdoor oriented or hunting and fishing, the passion for the outdoors like we have in Michigan, maybe you would have ended up on a different path.
Absolutely. I mean, you're spot on. I mean, my older brother owns and runs DNR Sports Center over here on the west side, and we have a handful of super good sporting goods stores that are independent chains in here. Obviously, I know Jay's is a big sponsor of you and your show. They have a great store. You know, Frank's over there by Saginaw Bay is another one too, and that's what I grew up doing. Though that's my background. I grew up working at DNR. You know, I was always around other fishing people, hunting people. You know, talking to the manufacturer's reps and different things, always seeing the latest products and things like that. So that's what springboarded me into fishing and just gave me the passion for it. Is that, and our whole family is an outdoors family. I mean, my nieces, my nephews, my brothers and sisters, the aunts, uncles. I mean, it's just the lifestyle that we live. You know, Mossy Oak is one of my great partners, and you know they're not just a camouflage brand. I mean, it's a lifestyle. It's a way of life. You know, I mean, they have a lot of different other offshoots. You know, gamekeepers, and that's what I am. I mean, I spend my entire year focusing on the outdoors and conservation, and you know, fishing and hunting and managing. You know, my properties for deer and turkeys and things like that, but also my ponds, and we do a lot with our foundation, you know, along that same lines for stocking programs and habitat and youth fishing initiatives, you know, college scholarships, all kinds of that. So it's not just where I grew up, it's who we are, and it's in our DNA.
I know that you have to get going, but I also know that I think I can sneak in another segment and still have you out the door by the time your wife, Sherry, said you had to be out the door. Can you give me another segment?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a conference call that we had. It's, as you can imagine, it's a busy time with me just kind of finishing up one chapter of my career and starting another. So, but, yeah.
All right, I appreciate it.
Make it work.
Yeah, I'm looking at the clock. I will get you out of there in time. So hang tight a few more minutes, Kevin VanDam. I can't believe I'm telling Kevin VanDam, hang tight. Hey, buddy, hang tight. Just hold on. We'll be back with you. I know what time he's got to go, and I know what time I can get him done by. We're talking with Kevin VanDam, KVD, the best bass fisherman ever to live. And he's right here in Michigan. And he grew up in Michigan, and I think that is cool. You can find him everywhere online, but his website is kevinvandam.com. That's kevinvandam.com. He gets the coveted third segment after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. The show is called Outdoor Magazine. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'm going to get right back into it. I'm talking with Kevin VanDam, KVD. His website, KevinVanDam.com, KevinVanDam.com. Kevin's got to go here in just a couple of minutes. Kevin, before the break, though, you mentioned your foundation. What's that all about?
So a handful of years, it's quite a while ago, actually, my wife had this idea. It's like, we should start our own foundation, and you know, the sport's been so good to us, and we, you know, to be able to give back and work on some youth initiatives, get more kids involved in fishing and things like that. And so we started the Kevin VanDam Foundation, and that's exactly what we do. I mean, I have twin boys that were born really premature, and we've done a lot with our local children's hospital and things through our foundation, and March of Dimes and St. Jude's and things like that. But most of what we do is, you know, just directly related to the outdoors and conservation and like kids fishing projects. So like we'll provide gear, rods, reels, lures, tackle, life jackets, things like that for camps, for kids fishing camps, mostly here in Michigan. But, you know, we're open to anywhere. We do grants for people that have worthy causes along that same line, just here and there. We've done a lot with college scholarships for, you know, college bass fishing is a huge thing now. So we do that. We support the Michigan College Bass Tour as well. We're, you know, premier sponsor for them. So we support their tour there. And we also do habitat projects, conservation projects, stocking programs, things like that. So we've done some of those really kind of all around the country. And over the years, Johnny Morse, who's the founder of Bass Pro Shops, is a great friend of mine, and he's a great mentor, and he's probably the greatest conservationist of the modern day area. They call him the modern day Teddy Roosevelt. And I've just seen the things that he's been able to do, and being in the sport and having a platform like I do, and having a voice, I just want to be able to use that to magnify some of these, some of the problems that we're dealing with, because, to have great fishing and hunting, it's got to be managed well. We're not getting more lakes and rivers and more access to the outdoors. It seems to be shrinking more than anything. So we got to take care of what we got and do a better job for the future, so the next generations have the same opportunities that we have. I know you're along the same lines there. It's so important to get kids involved in the outdoors and fishing. It's just, look how it's changed both of our lives.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Kevin, I could talk to you for a long time. I'd love to learn more about you guys out there finding walleye up in 2 feet of water, but I'm going to let you go because I know you've got a conference call. I appreciate your time. Congrats on your success. You've been a leader on the water and off, and you have my respect. And again, I appreciate your time.
You bet. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Kevin VanDam, KVD, the GOAT. His website, kevinvandam.com. That's kevinvandam.com. I did. I'm a skinny water guy, right? I like to fish walleye in skinny water. Well, for me, the skinniest water I fished all summer was 4 feet. And then I hear about these guys out here, these major league fishing guys out there on Saginaw Bay, casting baits up into 2 feet of water, up into the weeds, catching a bunch of fish. And it got me thinking, maybe I need to go skinnier yet. I know that Kevin is very well respected, Kevin VanDam, very well respected in the outdoors, not just the fishing world, for his leadership in conservation, for his foundation that he started. Plus, he's talking about this outdoor lifestyle. How often do I talk about this outdoor lifestyle? And that here in Michigan, we have something special. We have a mindset. We have a history, we have a tradition, we have a commonality that links us in so many ways. There's a lot of things in the world today is trying to draw people apart and doing a pretty good job of it, right? But here in our state, and we're not the only state like this. I look at Texas, I look at Pennsylvania, I look at Wisconsin, I look at Minnesota. There are other states that share this, but they don't share this Michigan mindset. And it's here where I live, in the central part of the Lower Peninsula, north into northern Michigan and into the UP. It's pervasive, it's generational, and it's everywhere. It's this outdoor lifestyle, hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. You get downstate, and we don't see it as much. And if Kevin and I would have had more time, I would have loved to have gone into this part of the conversation about, what he sees as an avid hunter, an angler, and a conservationist, and somebody who's promoting Michigan and the outdoors. When he looks around, what does he see? I see an awful lot of positive things, but I see some things that concern me. And the fact that, maybe I'll get into this in the next segment. We wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. The only time I can think of that Dave has ever missed. No, he didn't miss that show. He was in the hospital. He was in the parking lot of the hospital. He was having a heart attack, and I didn't know it until after we had the segment. That's how dedicated he is. But something came up today, and Dave's okay. His wife Terry's okay. But he can't join me. So I've got a few more things I want to talk about, and this next segment will be the perfect time to do that. So hang with me for one more short segment. We'll wrap up this week's Outdoor Magazine show. Again, a big thank you to Kevin VanDam for joining me on this week's show. KevinVanDam.com, KevinVanDam.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS 1480 AM 106.9 FM. In fact, you can hear us twice each weekend on WIOS in Tawas, and you can also hear us twice each weekend in Saginaw on WSGW AM 790 and FM 100.5. I am in the studios of WSGW right now. For this 3 hours, though, I'm going to call it the Outdoor Magazine studio. And I got a logo behind me to prove it. I'm in here with Jonathan Dent. John, doing a great job as always. Appreciate that very much. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. But beyond that, beyond the projects, right? And they do a great job with projects. But beyond that, what about maintenance? We're getting to the end of summer. Fall is not too far away, and that means a lot of things. It means, some more mowing, of course. Reader can do that for you. Some yard cleanup, some pruning, some trimming. I've got them coming over. I've got 3 trees at the corners of the house that grow like crazy. And every year, the folks from Reader come back and they trim them back. I said, trim those things way down. And they do. And then they grow back, and the folks from Reader come back and they trim them way down. But without Reader trimming those things, because I can't reach them, actually. And you know what? Even if I could probably reach them with a long pole. It's like, you know what? If these guys are willing to come over and do that, I'm all for it. And don't forget about that season coming up later in the year that starts with W, and the white stuff that drops from the sky that starts with a S. Reader can take care of that, too. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. I told you Dixie Dave can't join us. He's okay. He's all right. But he just got tied up in a situation where he just couldn't break free. And I get that. Dave has been very, very loyal to me and very dedicated to the Outdoor Magazine radio show and TV show for many, many years. So if he's got a week he can't make it, I am completely fine with that. Got to go back to my conversation with Kevin VanDam again. What a treat that was. I'm not a bass fisherman. I got to be honest, I'm not even really that interested in bass fishing. I get that it's a huge thing. I get that a lot of people love it. I have friends who would rather bass fish than walleye or salmon fish. I get that. It's just not my thing. But I respect people in any area, in any endeavor, who rise to the top. And I love talking with those people about how they got there. Passion is always involved. Hard work is always involved. Forming the right partnerships is often involved. But the level he made, I'm just crazy. And he's not going away. You can count on that. Okay, so I got a few notes here I want to go through. I've talked about summer slipping away, these cool nights. The days are getting shorter. A lot of people getting real excited for the upcoming deer season. I think trail cameras are one reason for that. I mean, when you drive around the back roads and 2-tracks this time of year, you can see bucks still in bachelor groups. They're in velvet. They look huge. Got a lot of people excited. I'm excited for a couple of hunts. I got the youth hunt coming up the first weekend after Labor Day. Taking my grandson Carter out for his last youth hunt. He's 16. After that, he can't hunt the youth hunt anymore. I will be going down to Ohio to hunt with Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters. Looking forward to that because my son James and grandson Trent are coming as well. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then my goal will be to shoot a big doe here in Michigan. Food plots. It's time to put in your food plots right now. August is a great time to do that. We have had some rain, so that's going to help out. Don't forget about that. People are asking me about perch fishing. I have no perch reports. I haven't heard a thing. But honestly, I'm not the guy to talk to about perch fishing anyway. I know perch fishing is the most simple, basic fishing there is out there. I can't get it dialed in. I don't know if it's... I have a hard time finding perch. And then, believe it or not, even once I find them, I have a hard time catching them. You know, if they come up and smack my perch rig, yeah, I can catch those. But these little subtle bites, I just don't have the feel for it. I've a perch fished with Brad Dupuis, Mr. Angler Qwest, before, off his Angler Qwest. And the guy, I'm telling you, he's like a fish magnet. He knows when the fish are thinking about biting. He's boom, 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 boom. He's picking them off. I'm not that guy. some changes going on at Angler Qwest. Check out hour 1 of this week's show. They're not abandoning fishermen. No, that's not the case at all. Just a little change in direction. Check out my conversation with Andrew St. Peter in the opening hour of this week's show. Also, in fact, we're getting ready to record that right now, this month's Angler Qwest podcast. Wednesday Night Live next week at 7 o'clock. That's on my Facebook page, on my LinkedIn feed, on my Twitter feed, and on YouTube. We will be live at the Michigan Brands plant in Bay City. We're going to go behind the scenes, see how they make those great, tasty, and healthy products. We might even get a chance to see how they make those Mike Avery hunter sticks. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. Love to hear from you. Want to know what's on your mind? Send me your pictures. I want to see what you're up to. Send me your video. I mean, if they're not too long, I'll post those as well. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I hope the rest of your summer goes well. It is wrapping up. The kids going back to school real soon now. Grandkids going back to school. Everything's going to change then. But there's still lots going on, and I hope you get a chance to take advantage of it. And I look forward to talking with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.